Hey guys, welcome to Cups of Crazy. My name is Rachel,
And I'm Lee.
and
Welcome.
welcome. And we're basically starting this podcast because we kind of want to normalize mental health and we want to do it in a way that is funny and where we can talk about our wild family that we have, and it'll be a great show to watch and to listen to, so stick around. First thing I want to talk about is I found this gem that I wanted to show you. We're big on coffee cups here, and I brought this one just for my cousin, Fireball.
That's amazing. I love Fireball. It's pretty well known by the people that know me. I
Right.
promise I'm not an alcoholic, but it's my once or twice a week happy place.
Right. Who hasn't had a good story that starts with Fireball?
Mine is coffee, I promise.
Yeah, mine's Red Bull, but still use a cool cup. I remember when I went to Puerto Rico and drank. We went out. Me and Charlie, my best friend. She was like, "Oh, let's go out to eat," and then whatever. I'm like, "Great." So we go out to eat, and I'm like, "Can I get 2 shots of Fireball?" And we're like, we'll just start the night off right. By the end, we did everything that you weren't supposed to do when you visit like a place that's foreign to you. We were talking to strangers, invited people over to ours. We had a great time though.
Good times.
Yeah, I really can't
Good
complain.
times.
It was an amazing time.
Awesome.
So I think to get started that we're gonna just kind of go a little bit over a little bit about ourselves, and that'll be some of the diagnoses mental health wise that we've dealt with, or and then just in general, just some things about us, that way you guys can feel more comfortable with us. We want this channel or podcast to be, well, for me, I feel that a sense of community where people can come who maybe deal with mental health struggles and just need like a laugh, and also to be informed. So yeah, right? I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll at least start with this one. And by the way, we are related. This is my favorite cousin in the whole world. She used to babysit me, probably my favorite person. And she used to babysit me all the
Same.
time. And I would not have had such a great childhood if it wasn't for her. I love her. So we'll let her start.
Sweet. So we're going to jump right into it and basically talk about when we realized we were uniquely wired, as we like to put it.
Yep.
So I'll go into it. I was about 11 or 12 when I started to notice I was a bit sad more often than not, and just kind of assumed it was normal. I internalized everything. The paranoia kind of started to creep up, questioning everyone's daily motives. By the time I got into 7th grade, which I realized my friends didn't really do that. And so around that time was, it's kind of normal for teenagers to like come home and sleep all day after school and stuff like that. But this was an everyday thing for me for a while. And that's kind of when I started self-harm and things like that. No one noticed. This went on for a long time. And I remember one time my mom was like, "Oh, stop drawing on your arms." And it was like, really? So from that point on, it was a battle that just kept growing. I went through a very traumatic situation when I was about 19. And it just added to it created a new level of depression, hating myself inside and out, and just all those things that someone with bipolar and personality disorder kind of goes through. At that point, I had no idea. I didn't know what it was, and I think that added to the anxiety. Like, why am I different? Why am I not normal like my friends?
Right.
So since then, it hasn't been easy. I have to work on everything, from thought to thought, minute to minute. It's constantly questioning, is this rational the way I'm feeling? Is it rational the way I'm feeling? And then I've come up with different coping skills that kind of help with that aspect. When I'm, ready to kind of fly off the handle, I have to stop and give myself usually 24 hours. And if I feel that same way, then I know it's a rational feeling. And it also gives me time to figure out, like, how do I want to talk about it instead of just like word vomit, and I can get mean.
Me too.
So I didn't find out I was bipolar, along with the other disorders, until my first son. After my first son was born, I went to counseling and a psych doctor. And that's kind of when they told me everything. And it was a relief to know that this wasn't just me being different or difficult. It was a chemical imbalance that I had. So, you know, I took meds, got off meds, now I'm back on meds. And that's kind of been my journey. There's a lot in between there, but that's kind of the overview.
Yeah, we're just gonna do the basics. We could probably go on the rest of our lives talking about other stuff. Well, what about some fun stuff about you, Lee?
Fun stuff. I enjoy writing. I've been writing since I was 9 years old. That's always been an outlet for me. I create a world that I can control. So it usually never has anything bad in it. But
you have an amazing blog.
Yes, I have a blog that I recently started, which is terrifying for someone like me to kind of put my thoughts and everything out there. And I notice I still filter things down, so it's more appealing to others. But I think eventually I'll get over that and just put it all out there. Right. Another thing I love is music. So that's a big part of my coping skills. I love singing. So I often do sold out shows in my car while driving. My kids aren't too big of a fan, but they deal with it.
Yeah. They don't pay for the car.
Exactly. So what about you, Rach?
Okay. All right. Well, when I was about, I'd say 14 is when I started feeling different or sadder. It's not much different than what she said. I did self-harm as well. I covered it all the time. So I've been dealing with depression on and off for about 17 years now, 18 years. And when I was 18, I had terrible coping mechanisms. I started dating someone 10 years older than me who was very into drugs, and I just, he loved me and he paid attention to me, so I just did what he did. That was a bad time. I remember I put my hand through like a plate glass window, like just, and like sliced my whole arm. I don't know how I survived, but anyway, I'm here to tell you about it. And then after my son was born, I developed anxiety. Bad. I still deal with that. I scratch a lot. That anxiety definitely manifests externally or physically. So watch out for those. And let's see, ADHD I've had since I was born, and because of that definitely went untreated for such a long time that caused a lot of other co-occurring disorders. And then recently, well, almost a year ago now, I was diagnosed with PTSD, which stems from childhood traumatic situations that have happened over the past 10 years. I've had a few of them, but like Lee said, there's plenty of time for those kinds of stories. Just kind of want to give you guys the rundown of what we do deal with. For now, I only take anxiety or meds for anxiety. I stop my depression medication because until you find the right one, they can make it almost worse. So always be on the lookout for that if you are on depression medication. And that's basically it. That's what I deal with. Anxiety is probably my biggest thing that I have to deal with on a daily basis. I'm working on good coping mechanisms like Lee, who, she does things like, treats for herself for the day to keep herself going, to keep the thoughts positive, I guess.
Yeah. So basically, I have these tricks that I do, even though I know I'm doing them, it still helps. So in the morning, when it's time to get up and get ready for work, it's like, okay, if you get up and shower, you get to have coffee after that. So it's like, okay, I get up, shower, have coffee, super excited right away. And then the next thing is, okay, you get to drive to work. So you can either make a new playlist or listen to one of the 60 that I've already made. So that right there, again, okay, out the door, drive in, good times. It's almost like my therapy before the day starts is just listening to whether it's the same song on repeat or like a full playlist where I don't have to.
My favorite song, I'll just keep playing it and playing it and playing it, and yeah.
So that's pretty much it. And then throughout the day, it's little things. Like if I have all meetings in the morning, it's like, all right, after these meetings, you can run over to Target and get, once again, a coffee, or like, you know, buy a new nail polish. It's just these little things that I do throughout the day. It's like I always need something positive to look forward to. So these are like the little nuggets that I put throughout my day.
Yep.
And it really helps, honestly. And then the other thing is making sure I hold off for 24 hours to understand if it's a rational thought or if it's something that I can let go. And in that moment, I couldn't let it go. But the next day I'm like, ugh, whatever.
Let it go. And that's what's hard too, is like how you say, like, you know, you have to think if it's like rational or not. And it's like, well, what part, which mental disorder is the one that's like making it to where we even think this? It's like, okay, so first we're like, is it rational? So our anxiety starts kicking in, like, is it rational? Did I say the wrong thing? Should I wait? Should I speak my mind? Why can't I speak my mind now? Which then makes you depressed because you're like, why can't I just say what I want to say? It doesn't work like that though. So it's just,
you got to filter out the thoughts.
Yeah. And that's hard because it just is.
Yeah.
I keep looking down. I apologize because my computer's here. So I'm like looking at you, but I forget the camera's there.
So I have a question. This is something that I've dealt with forever. And I personally call it my dark thoughts. But well, yeah, like it's not always like super like dark. It's more so replaying situations in my head.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad or like coming up with scenarios that could happen, but they may not happen, but I've thought about them so much that it actually will change my mood entirely, where I can't get out of it unless I basically give myself a nugget. I keep calling it that, but
yeah, no, that's what I call AJ. So it's my name.
So yeah, you know what I mean? Like I have to do that to kind of pull myself out, and it's not always easy. Sometimes it lasts a lot longer than I want it to, but do you deal with that too?
Oh yes. I had a very bad episode of I'll save the whole story for a different time, but not this January, but last January I went into like such a dark place. And for anybody who experiences these things, I don't have to really say it without saying it, but like I went to the edge. Do you know what I mean? Like the darkest point of the edge, right? So after that was like the darkest thought or close to action that I've ever had. But then a couple months ago when I was on that meds, like you just get in this dark place and you think, like, I think we've talked about this before, where you know, everybody's like, oh, tomorrow's a new day. That doesn't always happen that way. Like the dark thoughts sometimes can last such a long time. I was depressed recently for about 3 months, where, you know, as soon as you open your eyes, you already know the mood that you're gonna probably be in for the day. It's hard to kind of change that dark mode, but there is a day eventually where you wake up and you're like, okay, today's gonna be a better day. But with the dark thoughts, I just try to think like these are passing. But then I'm sure, like, as you experience, when you're thinking about these dark thoughts, it's almost like you'll take the dark thought and then put like subcategories to them, and then escalate. Right. And then you're thinking like, well, this is a dark thought and this is why. And even though this is just like a temporary situation, whether it be fight with your family or whatever, you still can't help, like, well, now I still have to deal with these people anyway. So it's like, is this ever going to change? Yeah. That's what I deal with.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle sometimes.
It is.
So another thing that you kind of touched on, What are some of the reactions you've had to different uh, medications? Like you mentioned, you're kind of off them because like the process that it takes to find the right one.
Um,
Uh, what were some of your symptoms?
well, I took a depression medication about 10 years ago, and it made me very zombie-ish and quickly. And I knew, I'm like, sometimes it's like a catch-22. It's like, would you just rather feel nothing and be like a zombie, or have these ups and downs? It's like, that's kind of for you to determine until you find the right meds. I was on Xanax, which I liked, but is where, what Lee was talking about really would come in handy, like the nuggets. With ADHD, that works very well as well, because it'll help you keep you focused. So, for example, if I make my bed, clean my room, and start my laundry, then I can have so-and-so, coffee, go to Target, nails, whatever. Whatever makes you happy. That definitely works for multiple disorders. So that's what I found. And you?
So I've had weird ones this year, and I actually confused my doctor. Like, she's never heard of the reaction. But years ago, I was on Wellbutrin, and within 3 days, I was at the edge. And right away, I was like, yeah, this isn't working. It's actually doing the opposite.
Right.
So for a while after that, I was on a high dose of Depakote, which often treats schizophrenia.
Okay.
So I was on that, a really high dose, to the point that I shook all the time. It's like my hands wouldn't stop, and I struggled just to talk, because it was like it was so overwhelming.
Okay, Jay.
So now I'm on, what the hell am I on?
There's so many.
So my point is, this past year, I've been on probably 6 different medications for depression, and they've all made me itch. Like, no rash, nothing like that. It was all on the inside. So I felt like there was something under my skin. And the first one I tried actually made my throat start to swell. So recently I told her, look, I'm good with the 2 meds I'm on. Right now I'm more stable than I've been in a long time, and I just don't want to risk taking another depression medication, and I refuse to be on a narcotic.
Yeah.
So she's like, we can try this other one. I'm like, no, I feel comfortable right now. And I think a big thing for me in my depression is I had so many highs and lows. So, when I was in a manic phase, it was like I bought a domain randomly, like 2 months ago. And then the next day or the day after, I was like, what the hell? Why did I do that?
And I've done the exact same thing before.
Yeah. So, and you feel guilty after. You're like, what the hell? So I feel like
mad at yourself and disappointed. And it's like, and that kind of, you wouldn't believe like the small things that will trigger like a stint of depression. Like, it's almost unbelievable.
It is. It's just wild, and you never know. That's the other thing. Day to day, like one day something will happen and you're just like, meh, it's fine. Right. And then the next day it's like, what the shit happened? You know what I mean? So it snowballs, and you never know when it's going to happen, and you don't know how long or how far it will go.
Do you cry?
So every day is, I hate crying. I'm not going to lie. I have given myself migraines.
I get bad migraines, as you know. I still get them. I'm in the hospital like 3 or 4 times a year for the migraines. It's terrible. I just got the bill. $3,500 migraine. Okay.
Wow.
My insurance.
That's an expensive, wild time right there.
I think you remember when I was a kid how I used to get them. Like, just debilitating. And so it's like, I would like to say that I hate crying, because I do, but you would think that I love it, because I cry all the time. I do. I mean, and you used to be a joke like back in the day, like, because, like, just an example, if I don't like being yelled at at all. Like if someone even raises their voice at me, it almost just shuts me down and I'll start crying. It might not even be anything like that serious, but I've never liked like authoritative figures yelling at me or feel like I'm in trouble. But just now it's like I'll listen to a song, and if I'm in a mood, have you ever been like sad and then you purposely put music on that you know that's make you sadder? I know you've done
just
it.
to know someone out there feels like that too.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Change
Thank you, Fiona.
Funny gets me. Like, but yeah, I just asked because I felt like when I was talking to my psychiatrist a couple weeks ago, she's like, well, how often do you cry? And I was like, well, honestly, for months, every single day. Every single day. That's why I cry more often. Like, even to people with depression, you might not cry as much as I cry. You might just feel it.
Right. There's so many different levels. I remember I went to the movies a few years ago with my friend, and we went to see If I Stay. Have you ever seen that movie?
If I Stay?
Yeah.
It sounds like you'd be playing the blood violin afterwards, but no, continue.
So this movie was so difficult to sit through. It was an awesome movie, but there is a part in it that resonated with something I went through years ago. And I remember sitting there and I'm trying so hard not to cry. Meanwhile, my friend is like blubbering, like, and I'm like trying so hard not to cry that I kept doing this and like swallowing because I was like, it's gonna come out.
Right.
Dude, when I left there, first of all, like my skin is so sensitive, like just touching it for that amount of time, I ended up getting a huge pimple right in the middle of my forehead. And I had a migraine for the next day and a half because I held it in so hard that it actually like
it hurt.
Damaged my brain. Like it was like, why didn't you cry? So like a year and a half ago, I think it was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this movie and I'm going to let it out. Like I didn't like outwardly cry, but I had like tears just like, oh, but it's an amazing movie. I recommend anyone watch it. It's a tough movie to watch, but it's amazing.
The last time, like, I've been recently watching like, because like ever since I found out that I had PTSD, even though like I'm sure that I do, but I've told you before, question like whether I have bipolar or not, just because of the way you tell me things that you do. And I can be like, because sometimes I just feel like I know that this isn't right. Like I've gone to the doctor and when I was diagnosed and told him like, this is why I feel I have bipolar. I'll talk about maybe in another episode why I feel that or whatever, but I watched this movie, not movie, it's a documentary. You know who Daryl Hammond is, right, from SNL?
Yeah.
Okay, well, he has a documentary on Netflix called Cracked Up, Terrible Childhood, this and that. When I tell you I cried almost the whole time, I cried almost the whole time. And it's not even because of what's happening. It's sad because both of us are very empathetic, so, like, we could probably cry just for the feeling. But there's, like, I'll just say it because I'm not in a upset mood right now. But this is for anybody else who I'm sure would be able to relate, and I'll probably bring it up again. He makes this analogy about depression and suicide. Sorry, I know it's kind of like a rough topic, but and he basically says, like, you know, you feel like a cow waiting in line to be slaughtered, but you're just so tired that you just don't even care. And when he said that, I was like I felt like someone like, got it. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel when you're in your dark times, like that's how you feel. Like you're just so tired, you don't care. So, you know, a lot of people say like, oh, people, you know, commit suicide, you know, that's so selfish and and you just, you know, you can have no idea how that person is thinking. Like they're not themselves, they're not thinking on a rational basis, and, you know, or even if they are and they feel like they can't be fixed, you know, so it's like, some people just got to take it easy on how they talk about people who do. Because I know a lot of people who have, I don't know if you know people who have, but I do.
Yeah.
That have taken their life, and it's just like, you know, we can't help where they were, and that time that they felt like they had to do. Imagine feeling like that's the only option left.
Yeah.
Instead
And
of
to
like,
them,
why didn't they leave a note? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
why was that their only option?
right. I think in those moments too, like to them, that is rational thinking. You know what I mean? Like that's how it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad when you think about it, but at the same time, we've both been in those situations where it's like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like,
Done. I don't want to be here. Like,
yeah.
what else is there? Yeah. And then that, like, it's like, and we talked about this, like, especially when, like, how, like, I read a lot of, they have a new phrase for it, self-improvement books. And those are really, like, I love those books. I have plenty of them, but it's also hard because when you're, what did I say? When your brain is not neurotypical, like when you have your wires crossed different ways or, you know, your synapses connect in different ways, you can't even apply these books to yourself because they're not, they're just dealing with people who don't feel like doing stuff or, you know, lazy or, you know, maybe not even just like, or are going through something that's in that moment, whereas we have to deal with this for such an extended years. So it's like, just because, you know, we're not having like a rough couple months, it's like, mentally it's years that this will happen. So it's like these books don't help as much, but you know what I have found works is I like reading and researching on the brain, and you know you can rewire your brain, believe it or not. A lot of people don't agree with it, but you can microdose with shrooms or LSD, not that I'm promoting it. I don't
That's
care.
a first.
No, yeah, they're doing a lot of scientific testing right now, and I would be the first one to sign up. And when they say microdose, it's such a low dose. Like I've talked to my psychiatrist about it, that you don't feel it. It's your brain that's like rewiring, and the chemicals are, you know, whatever. I'll have to get the exact quotes for you, but they are starting to do that, and it's proving that it's working. Like 30 days of microdosing.
Wow.
Like will completely rewire your brain. Your depression will be gone. Your anxiety will be gone. Imagine.
That's pretty wild stuff.
Yeah. So
I always say I wish I could erase all my memories, but then it would take away all the good ones too. And I feel like it would also take away from the person I am today. So I don't know if I would want to do that, because I think a lot of things have made me more humble. They've made me appreciate things in a totally different level. You know what I mean? So it's hard because there are a lot of things I would love to never think about again. But at the same time, it also reminds me like how strong I've been to like be able to get through those things. Mind you,
we're doing right now.
Exactly. We, you know, I didn't have the best coping skills to get through it, but I got through it. So it's one of those things.
I just feel that like if I had the opportunity to start tomorrow, I would do it because, you know, not to change your past, but don't you feel like we've suffered enough? So it would just reset from now and treat your anxiety and treat your depression from here on out to where you wouldn't have it anymore. I'm with that.
Yeah. No,
yeah, I wouldn't erase memories, but I would definitely want to rewire, you know, going through. But also they say you could do that through gratitude, meditation, journaling. You know what I mean? They say gratitude is actually a big one for rewiring your, like for rewiring certain aspects in the way that you think about, you know, being grateful and thankful and how that can help depression and stuff like that. But I've always been, I feel like a grateful person and always super appreciative. Maybe I don't do it presently, like, you know, every day say I'm grateful for this, that, and the third. Maybe if I did, it would work. Maybe that's a project I could try out.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's definitely, sometimes it's annoying to hear you have to be positive, you know, but it really does change things. But my other side to that is I can be positive, but also I prepare for the worst, which does help me. And it sounds crazy, but again, with the worst case scenario, if I already have that in place, but it goes the opposite and goes well, then I am so much more happier because I expected the worst, but then it went great. And it's like, okay, cool. but I still always have to go through all the different motions of how it could go wrong.
Of course.
Or, you know,
how could
like
I
said,
die? Because that's basically what it is. Could I die doing this? And let me prepare for anything less than, pretty much.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I tend to just, maybe not so much with future, like, you know, I like to know what's happening, you know, when we're doing this, what are we eating? Like, I've always been very questioning like that, but I have a tendency to look back on things like, and been like, damn, I should have said this, or like I overanalyze things from my past. Like, I'll just sit in my shower for an hour and a half and being like, I should have said this. I could have. Yep. My crying chamber, as I call it. I'm just kidding, kinda. So I tend to overanalyze that. The future, being in quarantine, I definitely started thinking about the future more, which is why, you know, I'm happy that we're doing this, why I started my YouTube channel, maybe you can relate. And it's definitely given me a better perspective, but really no different than before. I mean, I always knew that what I was, you know, the industry I'm in, I know that I don't want to be in there, but this has given me the opportunity to actually work on it and have the time that we all say we don't ever have, to be able to try to do something better. You know what I mean?
Totally. And it's, you know, getting the creative bug is always something that I enjoy, but like you said, you know, we don't find time during our normal lives.
I want to sit in the fetal position and cry all day, not paint. God, just kidding.
But yeah, being home and being stuck with my own thoughts, it's been interesting, and it was, like you said, a time to think, what do I actually want to do? Like, I love my job, but being furloughed was terrifying. It was just really hard to think, okay, what if my life never goes back to that normal? But it also made me appreciate how good I had it before furlough. So, you know, I loved that I got to, you know, start my blog and, you know, build up social media sites behind that. Still terrifying, but at least I did it, you know?
Exactly. It's like, you know, I started that YouTube channel, and, you know, I did the 1 month, the one video, and then I went into a massive depression for all these months. And, you know, I don't know how it goes for you, but sometimes, like, between, I don't know if it's my anxiety or depression, sometimes I don't know which disorder is messing with me. But like, you know, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to post a video next week. And then next week comes, you know, post it. And then you almost are like, well, fuck it, I already messed up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to. I've had that problem a lot. Like, I'll start something and then be like, well, I didn't do it, or I didn't do it as good as I wanted to, or, you know, people aren't going to like this, so forget it.
Yeah. Follow through. It's a real
terrible follow through. Terrible. Parenting and all. You're punished for a week, 2 days later. Just kidding.
Yeah. I hear you. It's, you know, it's part of the ups and downs. You know what I mean? One day it's like you're punished for a week. 2 days later, you're like, that was a little harsh.
And he's
like,
so
which is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And for any of you guys out there, like, anything that you feel that you can relate to, if you have stories about your dark thoughts, we definitely want to hear about people's first time feeling uniquely, what it was? Uniquely wired. Yes. We definitely want to hear. All of our emails and social media platforms are just Cups of Crazy all across the board. So for emails, it's going to be cupsofcrazy@gmail.com, and we definitely want to hear more about any stories that you guys have.
So, you know, thank you everyone for tuning in to our first one.
Yeah, this is the first one. Yay!
Yeah, so obviously it's not perfect, but neither are we. Neither is life.
First one we did. Which,
oh my God.
Yeah, which I think we want to add a blooper. I think she has the video of me spilling Red Bull and coffee all in the same 2 seconds and me about to lose it. So for those of you listening, thank you for listening. And then for those of you who want to watch us, We're on YouTube at Cups of Crazy. There is a Cup of Crazy. We're cups because there's two of us. So we'll definitely have this, and we'll probably add in some bloopers from the first one just so you guys could see. I mean, the first one took us like just to even set up took us like an hour and a half because we thought we knew how to do it and we didn't. And then yesterday we tried again and it took us so long to get everything. But the headphones were like, I got stuff to do. Can we try again tonight? We're both tired. We'll try again tomorrow. So here we are. So appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We're so excited, and we hope that we can continue to make people laugh and inform people on mental health.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Coffee Beans.